to Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact series. I'm Richard Dugan. He's Dennis Henson, the author of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And Dennis, it's good to have you back again as we begin a rather extensive story that's going to go across potentially a couple, 3 months here as the program flies, of a gentleman who most everybody knows, has had some contact with in some way, shape, or form. Good to have you with us to talk about this.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you having me, and I'm really looking forward to this one. It's a great story.
Absolutely. And we're going to start off with the quite a number of the sections. So we'll get back to you. But first, let's go into the dreamer, Walt Disney.
The Dreamer. For many, simply hearing the name Disney sparks delightful memories. Walt Disney's creations have entertained children and grown-ups alike, from cartoons, movies, books, toys, TV shows, theme parks, cruises, or a simple Mickey Mouse watch. Yet Walt's ascent to the pinnacle of Big Thunder Mountain wasn't an easy climb. His ups and downs were more exciting than those in any amusement park. So climb aboard, buckle up, and in just a few moments, we'll begin our trip to the wonderful world of Walt Disney. Enjoy the ride. Once upon a time, in 1901 in Chicago, Walter Elias Disney was born, the fourth son of Elias and Flora Disney. When Walt was 2, a baby sister Ruth was added to the family. When he was 3, his family moved to a small farm near Marceline, Missouri. The happiest time of my life. Walt and little sister Ruth experienced many exciting adventures on the farm. However, farm life wasn't easy for Elias. Financial challenges caused his demeanor to be harsh and unpleasant. In 1907, Walt's brothers, Herbert and Raymond, ran away and moved back to Chicago. Still, young Walt loved the beauty and freedom of the countryside. He enjoyed fishing, watching passing trains, and visiting downtown Marceline under the supervision of his remaining brother, Roy. Walt's grandmother often read fairy tales to him and Ruth at bedtime. As she read, Walt would drift off and become part of the stories. Another thing that he really enjoyed was being around and playing with farm animals. He gave each animal a name and carried on imaginary conversations with them, bestowing them with human-like qualities. His best friend was a pig named Porker. Porker was intelligent and enjoyed playing with him. She even allowed Walt to ride on her back. I guess I really loved that pig. She had an acute sense of fun and mischief. Do you remember the foolish pig and the 3 little pigs? Porker was the model for him. Yet drawing was Walt's true passion. His sketches were popular with his family and nearby neighbors. Once a doctor friend paid him a nickel for drawing a sketch of his horse. Yet Elias wasn't impressed by Walt's art and thought he should spend more time on farm work. On the other hand, Flora encouraged the boy and convinced his father to purchase a set of colored pencils and a Big Chief tablet. Overjoyed with his gift, young Disney spent much of his time copying cartoons from newspapers and the pictures in his grandmother's fairy tale book. Despite Walt's later remarkable success with his art, Elias never considered it a real profession. While living on the farm, Walt became infatuated with trains. He and Ruth loved to watch them pass by on the nearby Santa Fe Railroad. By putting his ear to the tracks, he could hear an approaching locomotive a mile away. The children's Uncle Mike, an engineer, would often bring them a bag of candy when his train passed near the farm, and sometimes Uncle Mike would allow Walt to pull the cord and blow the train's whistle. Main Street. Walt, Ruth, and Roy formed a lifelong bond while enjoying the happiest times of their lives in Marceline. The little town's Main Street was a beehive of activity, with shops, restaurants, dry goods stores, and a theater. For the most part, it was a typical early 20th century Midwestern city. If you've ever walked Main Street in Disneyland or Walt Disney World, you've seen a glimpse of the way Walt remembered Marceline. The siblings took every opportunity to spend time in the city. Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show was in town on one visit. Cody, who'd been a rider for the Pony Express, an Army Scout, and a buffalo hunter, headed up a popular circus-like Wild West show that traveled from city to city in the early 1900s. A parade was scheduled to draw attention to upcoming performances. When a large crowd gathered, lining the entire length of Main Street, Buffalo Bill himself appeared, driving the lead wagon. As the procession began, Bill spotted a small boy gazing in amazement. Cody asked him if he'd like to ride. Walt climbed up and sat beside the greatest showman of the Old West. Throughout the route, Walt smiled and waved to the crowd. After that first experience with a celebrity, he commented, "I was mighty impressed." On other visits to downtown Marceline, Walt attended a circus, a movie, and a live play, Peter Pan. Between the farm, going downtown, and fishing, Walt and Ruth couldn't have had it much better. Despite their bliss, the stress of running a farm was more than Elias could handle. So, to the children's dismay, he sold the farm and moved the family to Kansas City. Kansas City. At the tender age of 9, Walt found himself a stranger in a big city. But all was not lost because he discovered a spectacular distraction, Electric Park, a few blocks from his new home. Electric Park. In 1910, electric lights were still a rarity. Only the very rich had them in their homes. Consequently, a large light display drew a crowd, especially in the American heartland. Kansas City's Electric Park featured more than 100,000 lights. It was designed to depict a small German village. It included a merry-go-round, a roller coaster, and 10 other rides. There was a shooting gallery, a penny arcade, a bandstand, a dance pavilion, a performance theater, a bowling alley, and animal attractions. But the thing that most captured Walt was the scenic train ride encircling the park. At night, strands of light outlined every attraction. A luminescent fountain served as a stage for nightly live shows with actors dressed in colorful costumes. Finally, the park featured a massive fireworks display each evening just before closing. The Vision. When the young boy first saw the park at night, the Vision left a lasting impression. Long strands of lights, raised from their centers by poles of various lengths, were placed throughout the park. Viewing the scene from a distance, those lofty lighted spheres and ornate turrets amid the illuminated structures rising high into the black, star-filled Midwestern sky were magical. That mystical sight reminded Walt of the magnificent castles in the fairy tales that his grandmother read to him. The scene, augmented by the flashes of shooting Roman candles and exploding rockets, was one he'd never forget. And decades later, his reconstruction of that vision would become an integral part of Disney magic. Elementary school and a newspaper route. Elias, strict as he was, frowned on playtime, sweets, toys, and especially amusement parks. He purchased 2 Kansas City Star newspaper routes with the money from the farm sale. Walt and Roy were assigned the daily responsibility of delivering newspapers. For the next few years, in worn-out shoes, the 2 boys delivered papers from 4:30 a.m. until school started, then from the end of the school day until the evening routes were completed. Walt found classes at Benton Grammar School challenging, often nodding off and missing parts of the lessons. When awake, his class time was spent daydreaming of fairy tales and distant castles or sketching animals and locomotives. 3 positive things happened during those school days. First, Walt was cast to play Peter Pan in the school play, and when it was time for Peter to fly, Roy hoisted him by pulling a rope, a remarkable foreshadowing of things to come. Second, the Kansas City Star rewarded its paper boys with a pass to the black-and-white silent movie Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And lastly, he met and befriended Walter Pfeiffer. Walter's father liked young Disney and allowed him to accompany his family to vaudeville shows and motion pictures. Disney subsequently spent more time with the Pfeiffers than with his family and couldn't get enough of vaudeville or the movies. He visited vaudeville acts so often that he memorized the gags and shared them with his schoolmates. First attempt at animation. When Ruth became bedridden with measles, Walt was assigned to take care of her. Anxious to keep her entertained, he made his first attempt at animation by creating a series of drawings. When flipped, the pictures appeared to move. The young entrepreneur. As the newspaper routes grew, they became more than Walt and Roy could handle, so Elias paid other boys to help make the deliveries. Yet he never compensated Walt or Roy for their work. That is their part as family members. So when Roy finished high school, he'd had enough, and in 1912 he left the family to work for his Uncle Will. Conversely, Walt was industrious and earned his own money. While still running his newspaper routes, he charged businesses to deliver packages, purchased additional newspapers to sell independently, and in exchange for haircuts, drew customer caricatures for a barber. The young entrepreneur then spent his money on candy, snacks, and train rides at Electric Park. He also enrolled in a correspondence course on drawing cartoons and attended art classes at the Kansas City Art Institute. When Walt was 15, Elias sold the paper routes, invested the profits in the Chicago Jelly Company, and moved to Illinois. But this time, Walt chose to stay behind and moved in with Roy.
And we will start our conversation as we continue here on the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series here on Tell Me Your Story. Richard Dugan here with Dennis Henson, author of The Real Impact Daily Inspiration, and certainly a mouthful, so to speak, of what we're going to talk about here, the early part of this story called The Dreamer, talking about Walt Disney. And of course, this is sort of a slogan that was modified to some sort. The happiest time in my life, as part of one of the stories here, one of the sections, they now refer to the happiest place on earth as Disneyland, Disney World, and any of the other Disney amusement parks around the world. Really incredible. And sometimes when I read this part of the story, Dennis, I think, wow, it sounds an awful lot like me. Not so much the animation, what have you. Paperboy. I was a paperboy as a kid in high school, in particular. Started in 8th grade and then continued to move on as that. That would be the only job I'd ever want to go back to if it were the way that it was when I was a kid.
You probably wouldn't have liked to had it the way that Walt had it, because every morning he had to be on the job at 4:30. That's pretty early.
Mm.
And then he worked till he went to school, and then after school he had to finish whatever the paper routes were, and his father was always growing those. He was never satisfied. And finally, the routes outgrew what Walt and his brother could do, so he started hiring people. But there was a lot about that I couldn't get in the book. I mean, the story could have been a whole book.
Yeah.
But his shoes were worn out. He would, walk those paper routes every single day, and they didn't have money to buy new shoes. So he would stuff cardboard or paper in the bottom of them so his foot wouldn't be touching the ground or the street or sidewalk, wherever he was. And his feet literally froze to the sidewalk one day.
Mm.
So he couldn't walk. And a passerby just happened to see him and helped him get his foot loose and get him some medical attention. But that was pretty rough on a young fella, on a young guy. And his father was pretty relentless, and I can relate to that. Mine was very similar also, because he'd had a hard time. He got injured, very terribly injured in World War II. So it made him so that he wasn't the friendliest person,
Yeah.
to put it mildly.
It kind of grates on you after a while. I mean, you can only take
Right.
so much, and then it kind of oozes out of yourself because that's kind of the way you were treated and so forth. And yet, the creation that he left us is quite remarkable, and really grateful for that. Another thing too is every town has a main street. I think we have in Santa Barbara, of course, ours is called State Street, and it's Main Street only. The portion that is traveling the direction towards the ocean and the wharf, as we have it, when it turns and goes across the mountain range, as far as parallel to the mountain range, it's not so much. But that's what we look at as ours. And I'm sure you have one in your hometown, and as well as the town in which you live. And when I grew up, it was Central Avenue, which was basically zero when it came to numbering, East Side and West Side. And then of course he has that. I don't know if it's in any of the other parks, probably so, because I haven't been to other than Disneyland in Los Angeles or Anaheim.
Every park has Main Street, and they all look like Marshall, Missouri. So that was his. You can, as you're reading the beginnings, you can just see things gelling. You can see his grandmother read him fairy tale stories. He liked to draw pictures. He liked to. His uncle was an engineer, and he loved trains. And he did sketches when he was in school, when he wasn't asleep, because he'd stayed up all night with a paper route. But as the story progresses, you can see things that are coming in the future, especially that electric part. The scene where those lights are hoisted on poles, 50, 40, 30-foot poles, and they look like a castle. And with the fireworks going off and the dark Midwestern sky with the stars, the beginning of Disney. What is the name of the story? The Sunday Night Disney.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I remember.
Right, with Tinkerbell flying around and the castle there and the stars in the
Yep.
sky and
Mhm.
that's you can kind of see where he got the original idea. And throughout his life, castles were important, trains were important, animation with animals. And a big part of his story was talking to animals as if they were humans and imagining them talking back to him, which is
Mhm.
kind of how he got into the cartoon business.
Yeah, it's incredible. Again, the parallels as he's growing up, and it is one of those things that I've talked about on this program many times. Um, you're looking for what you want to do in life, your life's purpose, maybe. Go back to your childhood. What about all those things that you weren't paid for, but boy, you just had a blast doing? You enjoyed. I mean, I don't, I talk about with my father being an appliance repairman. I mean, that's kind of a side thing that he did, although he did it before I think he married my mom. And uh, for me, taking the equipment that he would repair and playing with it, and then digging in the dirt, making caves and this kind of stuff, playing with army men, building forts out of old wood that my dad would bring home, pallets, and those kinds of things. Now, I'm not in construction, mind you, but those are the kinds of things I enjoy doing today as an adult. So it really stands to reason that he found his life's purpose, even though he didn't really know what it was going to materialize as, as the end result, so to speak. But he was taking all of those different elements and
Right,
he was weaving them into what we have today.
exactly.
It's really, really incredible. The interesting thing, you talk about the first attempt at animation, for example, and I've got some drawing pads where I kind of did that, although it wasn't the kind of fluidity that you might find maybe where just incremental movements from one page to the next. And I've seen these where they'll draw the story on the corner of a page, and then it's much easier to flip the pages and see the story and see the movement and so forth. And of course, I know that also took us into I don't know how early claymation came along, but it's along the same lines where you take a frame or two and you move it just slightly, and another frame or two and move it, and frame or two and move it, and it's just incredible the creativity in the minds of the people like Walt Disney to come up with all these different characters over the course of time.
I agree.
Yeah. We're going to take another pause here. You're listening to Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact series with Dennis Henson, author of said book. We hope that you'll get yourself a copy of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration book. It is available and it is considered volume one because there are a couple other volumes in the works. This one in particular, you can find out more by going to realimpactbook.com. That's realimpactbook.com. There are a lot of different things we'll talk about as well on that page, but one in particular is when you scroll to the bottom of the page and you click on podcast attendee, you will put your email address in and you'll get yourself a free e-copy, ebook of the Real Impact book. And also, if you have unlimited Kindle, you already have access to a free copy of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And then there are some bundles. There are some special offers for you to purchase. I'm not sure if it's there today on this particular broadcast, but I know in the past you've offered buy one, get one free. And then you've also offered, buy the hardcover version. And then you're going to add to that one of the other books that you've written. It's also available. So please check out the website, realimpactbook.com, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson, and we are beginning. This is the first of several installments, if you will, about the dreamer. And that dreamer in this case was Walt Disney. And we're going to be talking primarily about all of the accomplishments, all of the things that he's done. He was, Dennis, he was, I think that we sort of have that in us as young people. He was a young entrepreneur, probably before the word entrepreneur was common.
He was throughout the story. You can see that he enjoyed starting businesses. He was always thinking about different things that he could do to make money. And his first one was while he was running the paperwork route, he decided he was going to be to deliver packages. That's brilliant. Since he was all over town anyway, he could stop at a store and pick up a package. So he was like an early, UPS or FedEx?
Oh, yeah.
100 years ahead of time. I thought that was really interesting. And later on, he loved trains. And we hadn't got to that part yet, but he got a position in a train where he sold candy and peanuts and drinks and so forth. So we'll get to that in just a minute.
Absolutely, we will. We hope that you'll stay with us as we continue talking about all of these different things that Walt was involved in, as you heard, or in our first segment. And I know that the whole issue with his going to high school. He was born. Have to remember, he wasn't born until 1901, which, if I am correct in my history, and I may not be, you correct me if I'm wrong here, Dennis. That was 16 years before the outbreak of World War I. And he had to deal with high school. And then that whole aspect. And as you mentioned earlier, he ended up going into the military at that particular point in time.
Right. Yeah, I think World War I started at 1914 or something like that. And then when he was 17, his brothers had enrolled and were fighting in the war. And he wanted to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a notarized piece of paper and changed the date so that it looked like he was 18 years old. And he was accepted until his mother found out. And she put a stop to that. But he and a friend of his found out that if you were 17, you could go to Canada and work in medical services. And so he did that. He actually was deployed during the end of the war, but the fighting stopped the week before he got there. So he missed all of the fighting, but he still spent a lot of time in Europe driving an ambulance.
There were still injuries. I mean, even
Right.
though it was a week later that stopped, I mean, there were still men who were suffering from the injuries they'd received. And I still understand, if I'm correct, Dennis, that by comparison to every war or military situation we've been involved in since, somehow World War One still comes across as the most brutal. It was just the most fierce. It was as if that was the First World War, and we're going to pull out all the stops. We're going to do whatever it takes on both sides. And somehow, I'm not going to say that war has become more civilized, but the brutality that they experienced in World War One was uh, pretty horrific in that regard. So
There
I'm
was,
glad he avoided that.
that's right. It was terrible and had many countries involved, but the most bloody, cruel war that the United States has been involved in was the Civil War. It was really, really terrible.
Yeah.
Lots of young people, and a lot of people were injured, and that is very sad.
And one final thing I'll say is that the shame of it all is that we lose such great potential in the people. I mean, think about it. What if his mother hadn't intervened and he had been killed in war? We
That's
wouldn't
right.
have the happiest place on earth.
That's right. Well, there's like three places or four in the story where he came this close to not being a Disney, being so close to death, but
Hmm.
just squeaked by.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't mind using the phrase from John Levitt. Missed it by that much. Or no, that was Don Adams. I beg your pardon, Don Adams, as Maxwell Smart. Missed it by that much. But thankfully, that did happen. One of the other things too that we'll talk about here, Dennis, is that he had and it was I think I have this pronounced correctly, the Eworks Disney Commercial Artists.
Iwerks, yes. Well,
iWorks. I beg your pardon.
yes, yeah. He and his friend started a business, but they were not very good businessmen. So, uh, what business they sold cost them more to produce than what was coming in. So the business didn't last very long. That one didn't last very long, and then he started another business, and we'll be covering that too in just one of the future segments.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. We're talking with Dennis Henson. We're talking about the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series, the story of the dreamer, Walt Disney, WD, Walt Disney. And we're going to continue doing so, but want to take a moment to remind you that you can go to the website, realimpactbook.com. Lots of good stuff there. We'll have Dennis elaborate a little bit more on that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan with Dennis Henson. And Dennis, let's talk a little bit about that web page. There's all kinds of good stuff there. There's even I guess you would call it a contest that you've got running every month for people who that gives them the opportunity to win an audible version of the Real Impact book, The Daily Inspirations, as well as getting your own free copy in ebook format. What else have you got on that book, on that web page?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the lamp on the front of the book. The very first tab has the mystery of the lamp, which is an interesting little story. You click on it, and it's an audio, and you can read along. And it tells one of the lamps on the front of the book. There's also a contest where it says, "Please help us. A lamp has escaped from one of the books, from the cover of one of the books." And we can't find it. It's somewhere on this website now. I know Richard was trying to find it on the first page, but you you have to click on the different links to be able to find it. And we try to put it in areas where it's difficult to find. But if you do find it, then you just send us an email and say it's on this page and located here. And then we will give you the audio book for free, which is $17 value. I think that's a pretty nice little gift.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have specials every month. We have a different special. So like this month, I know we just changed it. It's something really, really good. So be sure to go and look at this month's special. And then there's a section there about the magic formula That's brand new. I don't even know if you've seen that. It's the second tab. It says the magic formula, and you click on that, and it tells you how the book can become like the lamp in your life. It can help you get your wishes, help you get the things that you want. So that's new and kind of fun. Then there's another link there that says help the children, which is a GoFundMe. If you want to donate a little or a lot or whatever, all of the money that's donated through that link goes to purchase books to give to children in disadvantaged communities. We distribute them through small libraries, through school libraries, adult centers. And this is a powerful book. It can change people's lives if they use it the way it's intended. And to have young children form the habit of reading every day is life-changing. So you might want to consider doing that. But there's more on the website than I can describe. In fact, if you go today, you'd probably have to go every day for a week to be able just to digest all of the things that are in there. And some of them are a lot of fun, some of them are educational.
Absolutely. And getting this book into the hands of the young people, quite honestly, or anybody for that matter, because one of the things we've talked about regularly on this program is one of the things that you encourage people to do to help to I'll put it this way, make their dreams come true, to get
Right.
on purpose, to do what it is that they really want to do or fulfill the goal. Talk to us about that first and foremost suggestion, shall we say?
The book was written to be a tool to help people form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal. Well, if they form that habit, that's going to be powerful. But before they form it, they have to decide what is their goal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal. If you can decide what you really, really want out of life, your chances of getting there just increased many, many times, because before that, you didn't know what you want. So you're kind of drifting out in the middle of the sea without a rudder. The book is kind of a rudder, because every day when you read something positive that helps you move toward your goal, you have to reconsider your goal every single day. So it realigns you, it brings you back into focus, which is very powerful if you'll try it. And the reason it helps you form the habit is because no matter what your time schedule is, you can read in this book. You can read short stories, long stories, poems, quotes, and in the back of the book, there's a list of books. So if you have 3 hours, you can read one of the books listed in the back. If you have 5 minutes, you can read a poem. If you have 10 seconds, you can read a quote. So you have no excuse for not being able to read something positive every day. And by the time you've done this for 6, 7 months, it's a habit. You no longer have to think about it. You're just going to read something every day because your habit is formed and your subconscious has taken over.
Yeah. Well, I know that when I got the Audible version and I'm listening to it in my car, I couldn't stop. I mean, and again, I know that you want if someone's going to read one of those stories, long or short, read one of those stories and then stop and ponder, think about it, digest it. I like the phrase from Stranger in a Strange Land, to grok it, meaning to absorb it, if you will, into every subatomic particle of your being in terms of the message that is being shared here on these programs, or in the Audible, or if you're reading it in the hardcover or paperback or on the Kindle version, because that seems to be also a very important part of this too, Dennis, as you have shared with us before, that you need to take a pause and I take the quote from a biblical passage where Mary, the mother of Jesus, is listening to and following him around and so forth. And she's pondering all of these things in her heart.
Right. Right. Well, back in the 5th century, a group of monks got together and decided that they were going to come up with a way to get closer to the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So they formed a new process. They called it Lectio Divina, where they read the scripture silently, and then they imagined themselves being part of it. Maybe it was a Bible story, maybe it was one verse, but they imagined themselves being part of that. Then they read it out loud. Then for the rest of the day, they contemplated what they read. And when I heard that, I thought, that's how this book is.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the way it should be used, because like the Bible, if you just pick the Bible up and read it straight through, your chances of getting much out of it probably are not too good. I mean, it wasn't meant to be done that way.
Right.
There's too much in it. And it's the same way with this book. It wasn't meant to be read straight through, although the stories are so interesting, you probably won't want to stop in the middle. But if you'll just read enough till something hits you and you think, that's just powerful. And then you just contemplate it the rest of the day. Or if you read it before you sleep, go to sleep thinking about it, which is a great way to learn also.
Absolutely. And we certainly encourage you again to go to the website, realimpactbook.com, as we continue talking here about the dreamer here on Tell Me Your Story. This is the Tell Me Your Story edition. Actually, it is the Real Impact series, daily inspiration series of the Tell Me Your Story series, with Dennis Henson, yours truly, Richard Dugan. And these times that we get together to talk about these different stories that you have in the book. Today, of course, on this program, we've been talking about the dreamer and the different aspects of his growing up, and the things that he went through, and some of the things that impressed him and inspired him to create what we have today, are the various amusement centers across the globe, for that matter. I was going to say in the United States, but they're not just here. We got one on the East Coast. We got one on the West Coast. I don't know that we have any in the middle of the country. Not yet, anyway.
No.
Then we've got, I know for a fact, because my brother, who used to work for Disney, he was an electrical engineer. He would travel to France, and he traveled to Hong Kong and to Beijing and some of the other locations where they were building amusement parks under the Walt Disney banner. And it's just amazing, the proliferation of these amusement centers. Are you aware? Because I don't have it in front of me. Are you aware of how many there are around the globe?
No, I don't know. My story's pretty much stopped when Disney passed away. I mean, it has a little bit past that, but that's really what I concentrated on, is actually the man, not the company.
Well, I'm glad that you did write the stories. I'm glad you did the research. This is, of course, the longest of all of the stories in the book. And we're looking forward to continuing to move through each of the sections as we put things together. And actually, what's nice is, in addition to each of there are 3 parts that this story is broken down into, and then each of those parts is broken down into shorter little segments. And there's something for you to do. Get yourself a highlighter and open up the book to the dreamer and read a section or 2, and then put your line there. Okay, I'm going to pick it up from there. And the next time you pick up the book, you read another section or 2 and highlighter. All right, I stopped there. And then before you know it, you will have read the whole story. You'll have taken time to sort of ponder it. And hopefully, Dennis, this is obviously one of the biggest aspects of this. Take some of what you've read and incorporate it into your life. No, you don't have to get a paper out. But it may help you to develop the tenacity, the resilience, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's probably a great thing for people to be doing.
Right. His life exemplifies my 7 secrets of success. I treasure them out to your dreams. So if you read it, then you read the Seven Secrets of Success, you will see where Disney did all of those seven things that caused him to become extremely successful in the face of a lot of pushback. I mean, a lot of difficult times.
Yeah. And of course, we're going to hear about that in later sessions or sections of this series that we're doing on the Dreamer here on the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series as part of Tell Me Your Story. So we'll be talking more about that. And then in the final few moments of this session, part, if you will, of what we're doing here, Dennis, can you go ahead and kind of summarize things for us as what we've heard here in this first installment?
The first installment gives you a background that you probably didn't know about, things that you didn't realize, but as you see them now, or the things you know about Disney now, you can kind of see how they materialized. Like his best friend was a pig, and then the three little pigs, one of those was kind of patterned after that pig, and how he would talk to the animals and imagine that they were talking back, which turned into cartoons, and how he loved trains and so forth. Before we leave, I also want to mention, if you go to realimpactbook.com, scroll down to the bottom, click on that podcast attendee. There are 3 free gifts. I want you to take advantage of those 3 free gifts. One of those is the free download of the book with no strings attached. You can just, you get it instantly. You just put in your email address, and in seconds that you have the entire book, and we don't put you on a mailing list. Now, there's a link there that says, if you want to know about my other books, when they come out, then you click there. We will send you a note, hey, 7 Secrets, or The Laws of Nature for Success, or Real Impact 2, Real Impact 3, Real Impact 4. I mean, when those come out, I just finished a series of real estate books, real estate skills books. I've written all of those, and we're putting one of those out every month. So you may be interested in real estate. I don't know. But I hope you'll read and form the habit. I hope you'll get the ebook, and I hope you'll think of several people that the book will help. Someone graduating from high school or college, or maybe a gift to a nephew or a niece or a grandchild, or a housewarming or a wedding. When you have a wedding, what do you give the groomsmen? That's always a hard choice. Well, this book is under $50, actually under $40.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardcover is very nice. And it would be a great gift, something they would keep and remember you. People do not throw away nice books. They put them in a bookshelf and keep them forever. Yeah. So
we would hope that they'd also pull them off the shelf every once in a while, dust it off and open it up and refresh their memory of some of these stories too.
Exactly. And it's a nice, you put it on the coffee table and people come over, and it gives you something to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Dennis, we are closing in on the end of this particular session, part 1, shall we say, of The Dreamer. And that was Walt Disney. And we hope that you will join us in the subsequent sessions, the subsequent episodes, if you will. And we hope that you will continue tuning in to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., and then we're here Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. with a special edition on Wednesday at 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM. We are also on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will. And then we also ask that you select subscribe and then notification, so that whenever a new program, a new podcast, a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified. We ask that if you would like also to get a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, We hope that you'll go to Amazon and purchase your hardcover or paperback or Kindle version. The Audible version is going to be made available shortly. And also, we hope that if you can help us out, if you can leave us a tip through PayPal, we would be gratefully appreciative. And by the way, on the homepage of richarddugan.com, there are links to both Amazon for choices and PayPal for that tip. And finally, we ask that you take some time during this, the Decade of Perfect Vision, to spend some time going within, especially after you've read one of those stories, and listen to that still small voice and be inspired, encouraged, and enlightened as well. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.